Hey there, it's Julie Hutchison here from Think, Be, Do Leadership on Monday, and have a wonderful week so far. I hope we're going to be talking about why your team don't take responsibility for the things that you thought that you had given them responsibility for, i.e. that you delegated to them either a task or a project or a job role, anything that you thought that you'd got rid of, you thought that you had given to them, and yet suddenly you seem to find that you're still having to mop it up or it didn't get done, and you are sitting there frustrated and thinking, what happened there? Why did they not do what they were supposed to have done? Why did they not take the responsibility that you thought you'd given them very clearly? And so today I want to talk about this subject because it's so frustrating when you think that you have given somebody a task and it just seems to either maybe be done, or maybe it's sat there in tray and you thought, wow, I told them it needed to be done by Monday, and suddenly it's still there and it's Monday afternoon and you're thinking, is that going to get done? Or it's Tuesday morning and it hasn't been done and you are wondering what went wrong. And the thing is, it's so annoying, isn't it, really? Because as a business owner or a leader within a business, if you've given something away, it takes an effort, doesn't it, really? It takes an effort to give something away sometimes. For many of us, some people are good at it, but some people, delegation can actually be a little tricky. So when you think you've done it and you've trusted somebody to go ahead and do the thing that you want them to do, and you have then released and relinquished the control to let them get on with it, it takes some doing, because I'm doing this, so I know it takes some doing, because you've got to believe that that thing is going to get done, haven't you? You've got to believe that whatever it is that you trust that person to do, they're going to do it as good as you could do it, in the way that you would want them to do it, by the time that you need them to do it. And they're going to get it out for the customer or whoever it is. Imagine you sent off your I don't know, somebody to do your VAT return or something like that, and they just didn't bother doing it. Or you had a customer that made a complaint and you said, Bob, can you sort this one out for me? And he says, yeah, I'll sort that out for you, boss. And then suddenly a week later you look and you realize that Bob hasn't done any of it, and he hasn't done what you wanted them to do. Or the customer's on the phone and they're irate and you're thinking, I'm sure I asked Bob to do that. Why the hell not did you not do that? And how frustrating. So it can come up in all sorts of ways. But if you're experiencing that way, you're thinking you're giving stuff away, or you did give something away, but you just did not get, look, I'm all sideways, you did. Bob, I know, Katie, it's you again. Bob does get a bit of a bad rep. Bob and Felicity in my world get bad raps. Who knows why? Maybe I knew a bad Bob or a bad Felicity. I've got bias issues there, clearly. But if neither of them are doing what you thought that you'd asked them to do, and suddenly you're getting this surprise pile of poop back at you, and you think, oh my God, it never works. They never take responsibility. And we have to think, well, why? Because most people we know come to work to do a good job. Most people, they want to do a good job. And if they've been there a while, then, you think to yourself, well, they know how to do it. They do know what it is that they're supposed to be doing. They know how to do their job in general. And so if I tell them what to do specifically, I let them do it, and then they do it. But it seems that maybe sometimes that on a bigger job or something that I really need them to do, they're just not taking the lead, or they're not stepping up, and they're just waiting for me to do it. And you're like, why are they just not making a good decision? And you can tell that there's a frustration in my voice. So God only knows what the frustration is going to be like for you if you have a team of people that are not doing it. Because what you find is that you end up picking up the pieces, you end up doing it anyway, or you have to stand over people and wait for them to do it because you want them to do it, because you ask them to do it and you pay for them to do it. Yet there doesn't seem to be this momentum to get on with it, or this momentum to bring ideas, or this confidence even to just do. There's something holding them back. And what we know is that generally people want to do a good job and are capable of doing a good job generally. So there's something other than the general want, and if you're a good widget maker or whatever it is, they're like this, they ought to be able to do it. So what is it underlying that stops people from doing it? And there's one component that is the same in all of this, and unfortunately that's ourselves. And I'm sure this doesn't apply to any of you, but often what I find is that it's not the person necessarily being lazy or not wanting to do it. There's something underlying that's stopping them from doing it. Okay. Now, I talk a lot about can't do, won't do, and don't do. And specifically for these things there where we thought we had delegated, we thought we were going to be free of having to do that ourselves, then there's something that we've missed. There's something either we've done too much of or too little of that we are is not in place for them to feel that confidence that they need, that understanding and clarity that they need to actually get on with it. And the first thing I think, and there's a number of you on live here, and if you're on live, please say hello. Katie, I see you've already said hello. But please feel free to say hello. And if you're watching this on replay, then again, please make a comment, because I will check back, and if I get some comments on there, then I will reply to them. But the first thing I think is that there's a huge lack of clarity often in the way in which the manager, the boss, whatever you want to call them, asks that person to do that job. And what I mean by that is they're not clear whose responsibility it actually is, because I think sometimes people find it, or can find it, a little bit difficult to delegate. They might feel a bit guilty and they don't like it because they feel like they're giving somebody a job that they don't want to do. So it's a bit awkward and a bit uncomfortable for people to do these things sometimes. Oh, hi, Anna. And because of that, what happens is that we're not clear about what we really want done, when we want it done, and how we want it done. Okay, and what we're not clear about is the level of, whoops, I always knock my desk, the level of autonomy that we are giving them. Thank you, Jackie, doing a style wonderful. Jackie's here too, so wonderful. So what I mean is that, for example, if I said to Anna on here, Anna, could you do my VAT return? Then Anna might think, oh, okay, well, I need to do Julie's VAT return, because I know Anna's an accountant, do Julie's VAT return. But in order to do that return, I need some information. She might sit there and wait for that information. Okay. Now, if I haven't said to Anna, oh, Anna, can you do my VAT return? And I would like you to go in and get the information from the system, then it's not clear as to who needs to make the first move. Okay, so what that means is that this lack of clarity allows for the person that you've given that to genuinely, perhaps, of course, not be sure whether or not they should take the lead, or whether they have to take the lead, or whether they could if they wanted to take the lead. And can you see the difference here? This is open to interpretation. Hi, Julian, as well. Julian says it's his favorite topic. Yeah, and it's one of mine, because if there is room for interpretation about at what level do I have of responsibility for this, then we're on a losing streak straight away. I just need to take a sip. Hang on. So what I mean is, if I can interpret it one way, bet your bottom dollar it's different from the way that you're going to interpret it. So if I sort of say, oh, well, I think I'd like you to do this, or I'll give you an example. I was getting somebody to do some web pages for me, we had the conversation, this is what I want you to do, but he was waiting for some pictures, and I thought he was going to go get the pictures. And so I didn't delegate very well, and I did not give the direction around the responsibility for the task in hand. So there's lovely person waiting for me to give them some more information or tell them what to do, but couldn't take the next step, or didn't want to take the next step because wasn't sure. So first of all, we've got clarity around, is it, isn't it my responsibility? At what point do I need to wade in? Now, then the likelihood for wanting to take a risk and make a choice on that goes down the lower the trust level they have with you. Okay, so if somebody trusts you and is used to working with you and knows how you work and has a good relationship with you, then they might actually go, do you know what, I'm going to give that a try. I'm just going to go ahead and do it because I'm going to make a guess. Okay, I think that's what she needs. I'm just going to go ahead and do that. But if they don't trust you, and I don't mean not to nick your handbag, what I mean is if they don't trust that if they stick their head above the parapet, that they will be safe, that you have their back and you're not going to jump on them and say, why did you take responsibility? Why did you go ahead and make that decision? How dare you have made that decision in my business, for example? Not that any of you listening would say that, but if they think they might get their head bitten off if they do something that's a little bit, taking responsibility or pushing the boundaries or over and above what you actually specifically said, if they aren't sure of the reaction they're going to get from you, then they are not going to do it. They are going to wait. Okay. So the lack of clarity, and then it's like one of those equations. If you multiply the lack of clarity times the level of trust, this is a mathematical equation, you will get the amount of autonomy that person feels like they have. Okay, there's probably another factor in there, which is the amount of autonomy that you really want them to have. Now, here's the thing. Imagine this. They trust you, and you want them to do something. However, they go ahead and do something, and they're on their way, busily working on the thing. But you, because of you and the way your mind works and your level of trust of them, you can't help yourself but get in the way. You can't help yourself but to get in and poke around and see what they're doing and can you just change that and interfere, let's say, in the work that they're supposed to be doing. Now, so there are three parts to this equation, because if you do this or you have a habit of doing it or a tendency to do it, then what happens is, and I know from experience, that if somebody comes along and says to me, did you want to do it? I wasn't sure if you really wanted to do it like this. If that happens while I'm trying to do something and somebody's standing on my shoulder, watching what I'm doing, getting on my nerves, I'm not going to take responsibility. My next step will be, I tell you what, you do it. If you think you're better than me, you do it. So somebody might not actually articulate that. They might not actually say to you, you do it. However, the impact will be that you will not get the job you want done because they will work slower. They will wait for you to tell them what to do. So you will not get them making good decisions, because if they know that you're going to either undermine that decision or you're going to watch every minutiae of what they do, they're not going to feel confident. They're not going to feel trusted. So they're going to wait for you to tell them the exact thing that they need to do. So it's like a vicious circle, because if you keep telling them and poking them, then they're going to step back and they're going to let you make all the decisions. Well, of course, if they're going to let you make all the decisions, you've just created a rod for your own back. So they're not going to take responsibility because they don't dare. They don't dare. Okay. So what have we said? I can't remember what we've said now. Gosh, there's so much stuff. The clarity and the responsibility you give them, the trust that they have with you, the trust that you have to let them get on with it. That if you multiply each one of those, and if it's not 1 times 1 times 1 positive, and it's like, a little bit of this and a little bit of that, you're actually going to, every time you do something like that, you're going to reduce their ability to take responsibility and be autonomous in your business, which means that you still have to do the work, you still have to do the checking. They can step back and not do it, and you have a leg to stand on because you set them up to fail. Now, it's Monday morning and I'm already sounding a little bit like I'm telling you off, but I'm not talking about you. I'm just going to blow my nose. Obviously, you lovely people on here who are listening at the moment, this wouldn't apply to you. But if you know somebody that it does apply to, where they have a tendency to wade in when they shouldn't, or not be clear because it was too awkward at the start, it was like, this is like too hard. But the problem is, if you do not do this and set this up right at the start and create the relationship that you need, the clarity that you need, and the trust that you need, It means that although it's easier, it's like short-term thinking, easier at the start, bloody hard at the end, because they won't do what you want them to do, or you've got less chance of that, and they won't be happy because you didn't give them their head, you didn't let them grow, you didn't help them. Okay, so my 3 things are can't do, won't do, don't do. So it isn't necessarily that they can't do, but they will act like they can't do because they've lost their confidence. Yeah, then won't do is because if you keep doing this, this is a tendency, not just a one-off, then they won't want to work with you because you just make life awkward for them because they can't feel comfortable, they can't feel good about what they're doing, they don't feel like you're going to let them take control. So they will tell you what, you just tell me what to do and I'll just do exactly that thing. So what you get is you end up getting people who take no responsibility. They just make the widget, as you said, and if you say something wrong, they'll make the wrong thing because it's exactly what you asked for. So people, it's a bit like you know, when people say work to rule, it's a bit like that. They'll go to that point where they just do exactly what you ask. Okay, they won't put any extra if in, they won't make any good decisions, and they won't stick their head above the parapet and choose and decide and do all the things that you would love them to do so that you can step back and go and work on something else. But we have to remember that if we're setting this up, if we're making them feel uncomfortable, feel that they can't step up, don't trust the result they're going to get, don't trust the outcome that you're going to be of you, let's say, that you're not going to fly off the handle and complain, then they're not going to do it. So after that, Katie says, hold on, how can we better encourage our colleagues to ask questions when they're unsure? Brilliant, Katie, thank you. So I don't know why I've got such a wonky top on today. It's irritating me now because I keep I keep seeing it in the picture. There we go. Okay, Katie, so your question, how do we better encourage our colleagues to ask questions if they're unsure? So when you talk about your colleagues, Katie, I'm not sure whether you're talking about like they are at the same level as you or whether they're colleagues that work like in your team, but the principle's the same anyway. And that is this, it's the level of trust, okay? Because well, it's more than just a level of trust, but let's start with the level of trust. If they don't think that you've got their back, then they don't want to ask a question. Because I don't know about you, but have you ever been in a situation, it's like being at school when you were a kid and you knew the answer or you thought you knew the answer and the teacher says, anybody got this? And then there's always the kid that puts their hand up first who doesn't care what question they ask or how silly they look if they get it wrong, but they're probably the ones who always get it right anyway. And then there's the ones that kind of know the answer, but they're like, I'm not going to put my hand up because I might be wrong. I'm not going to put my hand up because like that might make me look stupid, or if I get it wrong, that will definitely make me look stupid, or I don't want to be seen as the class swot, or any, tick any of the above. And then there are the ones that couldn't care less and are never going to ask a question. Okay, so Katie, I think the ones that maybe you're talking about are these ones in the middle that are like, I kind of want to ask a question, but I don't want to be seen to be silly, or that maybe I ought to have known that question, or I don't know what response I'm going to get from the person if I ask it, because they might say, well, you should know that, or how dare you ask a question in the first place because you don't know. So I think what's happening in these situations is not that people don't care, is they don't have the confidence to ask the question because they don't have the relationship or the confidence to know what sort of outcome am I going to get if I do ask a question. And that might be from both perspectives, which is what I call an away from and a towards. Katie, thank you for confirming it is what I'm talking about. So just for everybody, I'm going to put this on the screen because this is the question we're talking about for Katie and with a cat. Is that Mackenzie? So I forgot what we're saying. Yes, I know what we're saying. So what we're saying here is, if I'm not sure that I want to ask a question, there are 2 things that probably need to be in place for me, right? I'm a good worker, but I'm not that confident, and I'm not not going to be one of them ones that stick my hand up because they've got no problem. I'm one of these people that thinks, what's going to happen if I put my hand up? And we have to overcome that, Katie, because if we don't overcome that, they won't put their hand up. So let's look at how do you overcome that? Well, if I'm not putting my hand up because I don't know what response I'm going to get, and am I going to look a fool, or am I going to be beaten down by my boss, for example, then we have to overcome that by setting that up so that they know that they're safe. Okay, because these sound like risk-averse people who do not want to make themselves look a fool. Not that they are fools, because they often know more than we know, but they just don't want to put themselves out there. They're nervous or they're not confident. So we have to set it up so that their brain is saying to them, it's a bit like going back to the Stone Age, you're going to get eaten by the tiger if you speak up, okay? Because the risk of speaking up to them at that point appears to be higher than the risk of not speaking up and getting it wrong, okay? So we have to make the risk of speaking up and asking the question lower and the reward higher for speaking up, asking the question. So we have to reassure, we have to explain that that's what we want and that's what we're looking for, and that it's okay to ask a question, however, sometimes we say, however silly that sounds, or whatever it is. And when they ask a question, even if it's like the teeniest tiny thing, or they put their hand up or they bring up the courage to speak, the reward has to be probably way more than you might think it does, because the risk was so high. And the brain is telling them, well, don't do that, because that's dangerous. You're going to get eaten by the lion or the tiger if you speak up, if you put yourself out there. Okay, so as a leader, what we need to do is to reduce the risk and increase the reward for people to do that. So we have to, the whole clarity side of things, this is not even part of that clarity side of things, but this is about increase the risk, the other way around. Increase the reward, reduce the risk. So if I was an employee who doesn't like putting my hand up in a meeting or saying stuff, and they know the answer, like they're a really good, I don't know, technologist or something, but they just don't say the thing that they've got, and they've got the cream of the answer in there, but they just don't do it, is that we need to say to them, it's okay, and to show them, this is another key thing, Katie, is that it's not just about saying, it's about showing. So when they do it, or they make any move towards doing the thing you want them to do, you have to show them that they are safe still. God forbid you jump on them at that point and say, how dare you ask that question? That would just end everything, wouldn't it? So you have to be able to increase the reward, reduce the risk of doing it repeatedly, okay? So that their brain learns a new pattern, because this is about patterns of behavior. Your pattern of behavior might be, well, I have a tendency to poke my nose in, or I have a tendency not to be very clear. Remember, we're talking about the clarity side of things, and that allows for people to kind of think, oh, I'm not entirely sure whether I should or I shouldn't. And as soon as that happens, then those people are going to go like, ugh, I'm not sure if I should or shouldn't, and therefore I won't. Now, you get some confident people who'll be like, I'm not sure if I should or shouldn't, I'm going to do it anyway. They always will. Okay, they're not a problem. But the ones that they're a different kind of problem. But the ones that we have here are ones that, when there is lack of clarity, don't want to get it wrong, and therefore will be paralyzed by your lack of clarity. So clarity is key, but then is making those things, making it safer to guess. Yeah, make it safer to know that because you may be a person who is perhaps a little bit like me, a bit woolly when we do give direction. And when we're a bit woolly, the only way we're going to get our staff to step up and maybe guess or take the best route or have a good guess is by making it feel much more safer. Okay, so either we get more clear, or we make it more safe for them and encourage them with reward, or both of those things. Yeah, get clear and encourage with reward. And therefore, they're going to be more happy to take responsibility. Okay, and then when they do that, not just a reward for making decisions, but reward them for the things that they've actually done. So, I got very, very excitable, and it's 24 minutes, and I don't know how I managed to talk for that long. But hey, then the next thing I would say, and I'm not going to talk about it much now, is to make sure that once you've done that, and that they are doing what you want them to do, and they are starting to take responsibility, is you give them feedback. Yeah, and that's part of that safety and security and that reward basis. I think follow up and feedback about, wow, that was brilliant that you did that. Thank you for doing that, because then they know they did the right thing, and therefore they're much more likely to repeat it. So we need to look at ourselves first. Am I clear enough? Have I created the relationship that they trust me? And am I reducing the risk and increasing the reward for people to take responsibility? And then step back out of it and trust them yourself to be able to do a good job. Whoa. Okay. Well, if you have any questions about that, please feel free. No, you didn't derail the stream, Katie. It was just a very good question about what we were talking about and give me some good inspiration. So no problem. If you found that useful and you would like to implement this kind of thing in your team, your business, then by all means, message me, because this is exactly the kind of stuff that we talk about and work on in the Leaders Launchpad, where we're helping to grow your skills, to grow your team, to grow your business. And you might say, well, I have a business and I want to grow my management team. We'll put them on it too, because to be quite honest, we should all be on it. We need to grow ourselves and our ability to be conscious about the impact that we're having, conscious about the behaviors that we're displaying, so that we can improve the overall performance of a team through their behaviors and their thinking too. Okay, so if you want to find out more, please message me and I'll be happy to talk about the Leaders Launchpad. And if you would like to join our Facebook group and you haven't already, then I'll put it in the comments for you and you can join the Facebook group too. So this is probably my longest live for a long time. Quite enjoy myself. So if you've enjoyed this, please feel free to say yes and share it if you would like to with other people. I'm going to get off this now and say, have a wonderful week. We'll be on around 1 o'clock every day. Generally about 1. Sometimes if I've got some other training in between or after or whatever, then I'll make it just slightly over, but generally around this time every day. Okay, have a wonderful day and get out there and get your team taking responsibility, because you cannot do everything. There's only 24 hours in a day and you're supposed to be sleeping for at least 8 of them and playing with your kids, your families or whatever it is for a good number of those hours, and you can't unless you get other people to help you. Okay, have a wonderful day. Katie, Julian, Jackie, Anna, who else have we got there? I think that's everybody's it. Yeah, any questions? Let me know. It's Julie from Think, Be, Do Leadership. Take care, everyone.